are the only folks keeping the barbarians from the gate.
I got into the labor movement not because I wanted to negotiate wages. I got into the labor movement because I saw it as a vehicle to do massive social change to improve the lots of people.
Let's take these son of a out and give America back to America where we belong. Thank you very much. Thank you.
As far as I'm concerned, the Tea Party can go straight to hell.
I am a real American. Fight for the rights of every man. I am a real American. Fight for what's right. Fight for your rights.
And there's one more barbarian they're going to have to hold back at the door. I'm Brian Summerfield. He's Trucker Randy. Joining us in arms is Jason Gillman.
Hey. Good morning, Jason. How you guys doing?
Good.
Good. I love that lead-in, that Jimmy Hoffa. Oh,
It gets your blood pumping, doesn't it?
What a piece of work.
If the Hulkster's music doesn't do it, brother, then Jimmy Hoffa will.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, I especially like Maxine Waters' comments, too, there, Jason.
This is probably bad, but I can't help myself. A couple of years ago, prior to getting involved in any politics, I created a whole bunch of fake license plates, kind of as a spoof, because Michigan was doing all the customized plates. You could get one for MSU, you could get one for CMU, or you could get one if you were part of the Lollipop Club or something, And I had special union plates, and I designed one that had a picture of Jimmy Hoff on it, the elder. And on the bottom of it, of course, they all come with the tagline. This one said, "A Teamster in every trunk."
Oh yeah.
Oh boy, there's something for the papers to pick up. Anyway, so.
Well, Jason, I wanted to start the interview off with you this morning, asking you, why are you challenging Wayne Schmidt to be the state representative representing Grand Traverse County?
Because I don't think he represents us. I mean, I guess ultimately it comes from a difference in philosophy of where you get your marching orders. Do you get it from a principled conservative position, or do you get it from whichever way the wind blows? And I tend to think that whichever the way the wind blows is a little too unpredictable. I like to know how my representative is going to vote. I like to know which direction he's going to go when presented with hard choices, and frankly, I don't think we've been able to do that.
What do you think are the main differences based on policies, specific policies, that you know from his voting record and also from his public comments that are completely different than yours, and one of the main motivating factors why you're doing this?
Well, and I think this is one that's, of course, near and dear to your heart, which is the Freedom to Work initiative in the state right now. He is absolutely unapologetic for not pursuing it, for not even taking an interest in it. And, I'm going to call him the undertaker of the Commerce Committee because, that's where bills go to die.
Yep. And he's the chairman of that committee.
He is the chairman, so he is the undertaker of the Commerce Committee. Okay? And he's like I say, he's been unapologetically opposed to the right to work. Last night there was a news comparison. They did the candidate profiles for the 104th district, and even then, I guess in one way he's not afraid to show how wishy-washy he is. I guess that implies some kind of courage, but the bottom line is he said in no uncertain terms that I don't know that it's good for this state, and by golly, in a Republican primary, when you have 80% of the people in the Republican Party, 80+% of the people in the Republican Party that support right to work, that's kind of silly, isn't it? It's not.
Yeah, those numbers aren't good for him. Well, one of the other components to that is I noticed on Facebook, just merely looking at different pages, I noticed that he does have some major friends that are supporting him in this primary race against you. One of them being a UAW Local 6000 liaison. And this person was making comments on Facebook openly supporting Wayne and hoping that he beats you in this primary. And is that something that people in the district need to know about and understand who Wayne Schmidt's true friends are?
Well, is it at all surprising? I mean, given his position on right to work, given the fact that he has PAC money that's driven by union activities, that's supporting. They're gonna outspend me. I've actually they're scared because they see the writing on the wall. Okay, I mean, when I say they, it's the people who pull his strings. But they're going to try to outspend us by about 10 times. Okay, it's entirely likely they're going to have to prevail if they prevail, and I don't think they will actually. The candidacy is going very well. We've got some recent, I might say last minute support, but we've got 3 weeks to go before the election. But I guess if he needs that kind of support, there's one thing going on though that people have to remember too. There is a Democrat primary on the other side, so he may not get that support that he's reaching out for. He may not get that union support. He may not get that left side of the aisle support in the primary as he might have been hoping for.
How many candidates are running on the Democrat primary?
Well, there are two.
Okay, so there's two. So those folks have a choice that they have to make and pick which candidate they think would be the best one to go against you or Wayne in November. So that crossover vote may not be there.
That crossover vote may not be there. I mean, they've got an occupier and they've got a union type fellow, and it'll be interesting to see where the soul of that particular party goes to in our region, I suppose, for their 10% of the vote later on. But in any event, it's something that it doesn't surprise me that he has that support from folks in the union elements, and it doesn't surprise me that they're friends on Facebook and offering support to him. That's par for the course.
Well, I think you're seeing almost history in the making down in Traverse City, because when is the last time in Michigan you've seen two Democrats run against each other?
Right.
I mean, it does not happen in a primary, and it means that somebody's probably trying to buck the party. And if I had to guess, it would probably be the Wall Street or the Occupy Wall Street person that's running down there.
Well, and that's the case, I believe. If my ear to the ground is correct, the local Democrat Party isn't exactly too happy with that, and I can't say where I've gotten that information, but in any event, it wouldn't at all surprise me.
Well, one of the issues, Jason, that very dear to my heart also, besides freedom to work, is the Michigan fair tax. It was something I ran on for State Senate back in 2010. And actually, we were, during that race in 2010, we were at the Traverse City Chamber of Commerce. And the discussion came up about Michigan fair tax.
Right.
And Wayne was totally against it. And we had a vigorous debate, actually, between myself and Wayne. Howard and I didn't disagree all that much at that point of the campaign. Have you and Wayne ever exchanged conversation or discussed replacing our business taxes and our personal income tax with the Michigan fair tax?
Actually, I have had a discussion with Wayne. It was actually when I was doing an interview. It was in 2010 when we did the forums out in Williamsburg.
Yep.
And I did mention the fair tax, and we discussed that. And it's one of those things that does make it difficult, for example, to sign the no new tax pledge, because of course you kind of have to increase or change things around, so it really takes that the no new tax pledge and kind of tosses it aside, for better policy, of course. But I'm trying to remember what he had said about it. He wasn't at all enthused about it, of course. At the
right.
time.
Well, his argument to me back then was that even though it got rid of the 4.35% personal income tax and would give every worker in the state of Michigan basically a pay raise without it coming from their employer,
right,
and eliminating all business taxes, making us basically a tax-free state for businesses as far as their income. It replaces the 6% sales tax with a 9.75% consumption tax.
right.
And he said that he was afraid of what that might do to tourism if we got the reputation as being a high sales tax state.
Well,
So that basically was his argument, even though a lot of other taxes would be eliminated on Michigan citizens. It would be slightly transferred to tourists that visit our state. So that was the main thrust of his argument.
well, I guess it's just that there are folks like the incumbent who just don't understand, by micromanaging all the little aspects of economics, both statewide and locally. You can be concerned about one particular industry, and your concern with it might affect negatively a number of others. The bottom line is that the best policy is to apply an equal and fair, representative cost of government to everybody, and the fair tax really does that, because and it makes it voluntary, 100% voluntary, at least for that particular part of the taxation. We still have to deal with the not the personal property tax, because it eliminates that as well. But we need to deal with property taxes later on. But the bottom line, fair tax, what it does, it applies it equally. It actually catches the tourism. I don't think they're thinking about sales tax when they decide what places to visit. I think they're thinking, is that a nice place to visit? It's not something like, well, Traverse City is beautiful this time of year, but by golly, they've got 3% extra sales tax than Chicago.
Oh, here's where it hits
but
you.
They
at.
don't actually. They're actually higher.
And it hits you when you go to get that hotel room, and you had your price locked in at whatever it was when you made your reservation, and then you show up, and then your bill's $100 more for 3 nights because, we've got a local tax on this and then another tax on that, and we just funded the stadium for this over here, and all those things that local bureaucracies want to say, well, we'll just throw a tax on this and we can pay for it that way, and they'll never see it, or they really don't care. It's like, well, they care, and it was sprung on them at the last minute. It was already too late, and it's going to affect them wanting to come back. And I think as long as it's not a local hidden tax, if it's just a state tax and everybody knows it, I don't think it's going to be a problem. If you go to Florida, you know exactly that the tax is going to be higher there because they don't have a state income tax. You know that that's part of the system. It's that hidden local tax on hotels and airline things. It's like that hidden bag fee. You go in there, it's like, okay, that ticket was just for you. It's going to be $25 a bag now. And, you feel like you just got hit up by a drug dealer.
Right.
Hey, Jason, one of the issues that came up this past year, and I'd like to know specifically what your position is versus Wayne. He has co-sponsored a lot of bills that I believe are part of the UN Agenda 21. One of those bills was he sponsored the train from Detroit to Chicago.
Right.
And he based it on claiming that it was for jobs. I said, well, jobs here in Traverse City? And his comeback was, no, these would be jobs, down in that area, obviously, Randy. And I said, well, why is it that you would be one of the main sponsors of this bill? And he didn't have a comeback for that. And I firmly believe that he's part of the ICLEI organization. I firmly believe that he's one of the people that helped get Agenda 21 implemented in Traverse City, because Traverse City is a member of the Agenda 21.
Well, I'm glad you
what is
brought
your
that up.
position on it, and have you ever
I'm glad
debated
you
him
brought
on
that
this
up,
issue?
because I really want to speak to that. This is something that people have to understand. Okay. First of all, addressing the trains thing. Obviously, it's in my. I have a commercial that's been running on the AM station down here. My my demographic, the people I'm trying to reach. Okay, the ad, I talk about train schemes. Okay, and I actually mention that as one of the places where we differ. The state can take $200 million and create jobs, and then have a wonderful train system that we must subsidize till the end of time. Okay, no, that's not such a good idea. Okay, we're just adding liabilities to our kids, or frankly, to us, as long as we have working years left. But the Agenda 21 thing is an issue. It's a problem. Okay, and this goes beyond. Of course, it goes beyond Wayne, but it is something that I'd like to address in some way, shape, or form in the legislature to protect private property rights. Okay, this last Tuesday, our planning commission, our Grand Traverse County Planning Commission, we had one of the experts from MSU come up and speak to what is the role of the planning commission. Okay, and he went through a number of things, and they talk about how the planning commission should be involved in economic development and social development. And it's like, and I'm just kind of, biting my tongue, because really, as far as I'm concerned, it should be a review board, and it should be mechanical, at the very most. Okay, well, he mentioned stakeholders. And I've heard this term over and over and over again. And when he mentioned stakeholders, I had to ask. And at the point where it was a question and answer, I asked. I said, okay, you mentioned stakeholders. To you, I asked this gentleman from MSU, this expert. I said, what is a stakeholder to you? Well, he named off law enforcement. He named off government agencies. He named off council of governments. He named off fire departments. He named off business associations. He named off other associations. He named off the Girl Scouts. He named off everybody except for one.
The American people.
He didn't name property owners. And I asked him, when he was done, I was like, you didn't even, and he said, any of these particular stakeholders don't represent a majority, but when they collaborate, they do. And I felt I was compelled to correct him. I said, you didn't even mention private property owners, who automatically have the majority. They are the majority stakeholder. Because every time you're planning something, you're planning with their property. You're planning what to do with their stuff. So to speak.
Well, that's part of the UN Agenda 21. Is they do not believe in private property ownership.
Yes, but see, the thing is, when people hear stakeholders, okay, they use stakeholders as an alternate term because it allows them to avoid saying property owners. Because if they acknowledge property ownership, well, it's kind of hard to plan somebody else's property, but it's not hard to plan the community's property, and that's ultimately how it's done. So whenever, for those listeners out there who do not understand how this language has been used to confuse and obfuscate the real danger of Agenda 21, keywords: sustainability, stakeholders, sustainable growth, smart growth. Ultimately, all of this is used to chase folks into urban settings and to free up the rural areas to re-become wildlands. That's the plan. Understand it. Single-family homes are not allowed. Single-family homes are not in the plan. And, without trying to go into that place where, people start, the eyes glass over, it is more of a global agenda, more of a UN-type agenda. So, anyway, but that's something that, it's happening right here. And again, I had to point out he never mentioned private property rights.
Well, the one thing that I've learned about him, I had the opportunity to interview him on our old show back when he was running in the last campaign. Went to his website, read his material, talked to him for an hour on the radio, and he's got conservative talking points down pat. He's able to answer the questions, sound like a conservative, Matter of fact, if you didn't have, voice recognition software, you just saw the transcript of it, it's like, wow, this guy's Ronald Reagan.
Right.
Had an opportunity to have him on the radio after the election, and the first 3 bills, major bills that came into the House that he voted on, I brought it up to him. I says, well, when we talked before, you mentioned that you were a conservative, yet on this bill, let's talk about Pure Michigan. Oh, that's great, Bill. I sponsored it. I put it, it's like, yeah, where is that in the state constitution? Where should we be subsidizing our advertising budgets for private businesses? And it was like 3 bills, boom, 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 that he was on the wrong side of the conservative ledger.
Right.
And his walk does not match up with it, or his talk doesn't match up with his voting record.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. It really is unfortunate. I guess it's politispeak. You talk grand generalities, conservative generalities, but when the rubber hits the road, as I said, you have to kind of second guess where they're going to go.
Well, Jason, I have a question. Being that the election now is just over 2 weeks away from this coming Tuesday, are you guys lined up to do any face-to-face debate?
We are not. We've asked a couple of times, and they've just declined. I asked him on his Facebook page. Even nobody answered. No.
So he's not even willing to publicly debate you?
Apparently not. No.
And the Chamber of Commerce and all the different business groups and things like that in Traverse City, they're not sponsoring any events?
I wonder if the Chamber of Commerce, I think the Chamber of Commerce has a wonderful role, okay? I really do. The way that it's been operated, though, okay, is in a hands-out to government first, role. And he actively supports that, okay? I'm not a big fan of, too much involvement with government in the chamber. I think, the collaboration is simply for government to take advice perhaps on getting out of the way, for business. And the chamber then does the advertising, does the promotion, does the footwork necessary to make, to make the local businesses appear more viable, but our chamber, and I'm not, I guess I say this lightly, it seems to want to work with government a little bit too much in arranging, in its promotion. And so these are the kind of things where, I think government has a specific role. It's essentially infrastructure, it's public safety,
Right. What's in our Constitution that they have to do?
Yeah.
Exactly.
It has a role, but it's not what it's been used for all too often, and I'd like to see it return to its specific. Well, Jason,
role. You need to raise some money here to get your message out. How do our listeners,
they can go to
find out more about you and click on a donate button for you?
At jasongillman.com, I've got the donate button is there. I'm going to be adding some radio spots, whether I use them or not, but you can hear the radio spots that I've recorded already. And if you head on over there, just click on the donate, send me a message. You contact me if you're in Grand Traverse County, want to put a sign up, whatever we can do. Talk to your friends. It's very important.
Do you have any public events scheduled in the next couple of weeks where people can come out and see?
We have on the 26th at 7 p.m. at Streeters. We have a supporters party. We'll have wine tasting and some hors d'oeuvres. And all of my supporters, all the people who are willing to support me are welcome. And we may even have some activities for them to do, afterwards, maybe a couple of phone calls or, find an extra sign location. Basically a last-minute rally as well, but it will be a supporters party.
Now, wine tasting, is that where you just kind of take a sip of it and spit it out and then comment on its bouquet and overall?
Yep, we'll have some fun doing that.
Okay.
I'm going to swallow.
I don't think that's against the law.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Jason, and I'll come down to that event and maybe get an opportunity to help you fire up the crowd a little bit.
Awesome.
And we'll be posting some things on Facebook. We'll have this podcast recorded and send it to you as well, so you can put it out there and let people hear what you had to say this morning.
All right.
What's your? You got about 30 seconds for your 30-second stump speech.
My 30-second stump speech. Well, I'll tell you, there is a difference between Wayne Schmidt and I. You know, right to work is an obvious one. There's also the ability to stand as a champion for folks to know where their representative stands. I am solidly conservative. I don't believe in artificial economic devices and gimmicks, and I will represent this community properly.
Jason, thank you so much. Looking forward to talking to you hopefully after the primaries as we gear up for the general election. I'm Brian Summerfield. He is Trucker Randy, and we are your defending fathers.
This is the Patriot Voice Radio Network.